Step one is to mull up some sand. I usually fill my muller with about 4 buckets of sand this size. This is a coffee can. And that's about 30 or 40 pounds of sand. And the sand that I put in has lots of lumps like this in it. So this is right after it gets shaken out of the mold. Most of it's in pretty bad shape. I start the muller up. And I let that mix for a while. It usually takes about 5 minutes to mull a batch. And during the mulling, I'll add some water. Now that I have mulled sand, I can start to make the actual mold for the bell. This is the way I've decided to set it up, with the bell and the cope for a double roll mold. And the sprue will be attached to the bell with a runner on the side like so, instead of the way bells are normally done with the sprue in the middle coming from the bottom and the bell cast inverted. I've decided to do it this way just because it's a little bit easier for me, and that's what I have experience with. I'm trying something new with the parting powder this time. In here is chalk dust for chalk lines, and I believe this is calcium carbonate. What I had been using previously was silica flour, and that's a pretty severe respiratory hazard. So if this calcium carbonate works well for me, then I'll switch to that, and it won't be as dangerous to use. The first thing I do is I take this riddle and riddle some sand onto the pattern, and then pat it down by hand and use this hand rammer to compact it. I'll use a power rammer later for the bulk of the mold. And these are the kind of lumps that the riddle leaves behind. Those lumps will bond okay, but putting them right on the surface of the pattern will leave a poor finish. So I riddle them out to improve the pattern's finish. Now, I'm compacting this against the surface of the bell pattern. I'm not trying to fill space at this point. I just want a good finish right against the surface of the pattern, a very thin layer. Now that I have a layer covering all over the pattern, I'll add a lot of sand and really get to work with the power rammer. This right here is my power rammer. It's made from a modified air chisel, and I'm going to use it to ram most of this mold. And it's a little bit tricky to use because it actually will get the sand more compact than I want it to if I just bear down on it. So it takes a little bit of a lifetime. There are a lot of areas the power rammer can't get to, especially in this mold because I'm using such a small flask. So I have to ram those by hand with either this rammer or just a wooden stick or something for the very small areas. Now the cope of the mold is completely rammed. You can see how much that power rammer speeds things up. The next step is to strike it off level and flip the mold. Take a little bit of sand and sprinkle on the top so the board has good contact with the mold and evenly supports the sand. And then I just take it and roll it over. Here we have the parting face exposed, and I don't feel any sponginess. Maybe a little bit in this far corner, but it doesn't matter there. I'm going to pull the pattern, if I can, just to check the mold. Cavity looks pretty good. It's not perfect. There's a little bit of sponginess right here that I don't like, but it'll be good enough because I'm going to machine this anyway.